Hi folks, well I've finally got around to actually stripping the engine. I've just done that just now. As you can see, I've taken off the cam cover, that's off. I've also removed the alternator, that's that there, so that's off. And I've also removed the ignition cover, the ignition timing cover, and I've removed the clutch cover, and pretty much everything looks like it is as it should be. Don't really see any issues. I've also removed the spark plugs, that's the spark plugs there, and they kind of look fine. I mean, they're a bit dirty obviously, but that's kind of what you expect. It doesn't look like there's any kind of horrendous problems in there. So that's pretty much it. What else was that? Oh yeah, I've turned the engine over as well so that I know that it's not seized. I didn't actually think it was going to be seized, but obviously it's just good to actually kind of get it apart and see that it does actually turn over. What I'll do is I'll turn it over just now, and you can see what I'm talking about. It actually turns over very smoothly. Just going to put the camera down a second. So if you turn it, let's think it'll be anti-clockwise from this side, and you can see the cams turn. The cams look pretty good, they're all kind of smooth. Don't see any kind of damage to them anywhere. And it turns over quite easily and sounds kind of smooth and feels smooth. Oops. So I've just been kind of turning it over a bit and looking at the cams and stuff like that, and it all looks fine. So I'm quite happy with that. The starter motor mechanism all seems to work okay. What else? The clutch turns over when you turn the engine over as well, so that tells me that everything's okay there. Switch my ratchet the other way. That's the clutch. Timing chain all looks fine. I wouldn't say there's any issue with that. The chain tension seems to be fine, although the chain tensioner doesn't look quite right. That's one thing that isn't right. If you look at that, it's not straight. It's kind of like it's bent there, and I don't think it's meant to be like that. I think they're probably meant to go straight. I might be wrong, maybe the 5-blade ones are bent like that, but to me that doesn't look right. So if anyone knows whether the 5-blade chain tensioner is supposed to be straight or bent, maybe you could put a note in the comments. But to be honest, it doesn't really matter anyway, because I've got some APE tensioners from a VTR 1000 left over, and I'm pretty sure that they'll fit the 5-blade, so I'm just going to put one of those in. Basically it's just like a bolt that goes straight through. And it has like thread in the bit here, and you just bolt it onto there and put the bolt through and just tension it manually. So that's what I'm going to do with that anyway. So I'm quite happy that the engine turns over and feels good, all looks good. Spark plugs look okay. Basically I don't think there's anything really wrong with this engine, which is good, because obviously I have sunk 500 quid into it, paid 500 for it, and if it wasn't, if I had kind of major problems, obviously that would not be good. But I kind of thought it seemed okay, and the guy seemed pretty trustworthy, so I took a chance on it, and I think it's turned out okay, because I don't see any problems with this engine at all. Obviously one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to get a compression tester. I was trying to get one yesterday from an auto parts store, but it was something like 60 quid, 55, 60 quid or something like that, and they're about 10 quid off eBay, so I think I'm going to just get one off eBay. So when I get that, I'm going to test the compression on all 4 cylinders and make sure that it's got the correct compression, or at least, you know, kind of close to the correct compression. Obviously there isn't oil circulating around the engine at the moment, obviously. In fact, there's no oil in it, although there's a kind of film of oil on the things, but I think what they say is you get a slightly lower compression reading if there isn't oil in the engine. Or I think what you can do actually is you can drop a wee tiny bit of oil in through the spark plug holes just before you test the compression, and that just kind of seals the piston. So I might do that, but we'll see. The Fireblade, the Haynes manual says the Fireblade is supposed to be 100, I think it's 171, what is it, 171, whatever it is you measure it in, PSI I think it is, pounds per square inch, is that right? Again, if anyone knows better, feel free to put a comment. I'm pretty sure the Haynes manual said it's 171 PSI, so obviously it could be a bit lower, but as long as it's kind of in the like the 160s or something like that, it should be fine. Obviously if it's like, I don't know, 100 PSI or something like that, if it's well down, that's not going to be good because I'm going to have to rebuild the engine. But to be honest, when I turn the engine over, it feels smooth and everything kind of feels good, so I don't think that's very likely. I think it's going to be fine. I mean, the other thing is that this is it's a Honda engine. Obviously it's a Honda Fireblade engine, and it's only got about 40,000 miles and not 41,000 or something like that, which is not a lot to a Honda. I mean, these will do, I don't know, they would do 6-figure mileages, so I'm sure. So I'm not massively worried about it. I'm pretty confident it'll be fine. The other thing was, in one of my previous videos I put something to say that I wasn't sure what this thing was, this shaft sticking out here, and I realised what it is. It was, of course, it's the gear shift, it's the gear selector. So the gear lever, because it's got kind of splines on the end. I don't know if you can see in the video, but there's splines on there. So when I get my rear sets, what they usually have is they have like a lever thing that goes onto the end of those splines, and then it connects onto a shaft which connects onto the gear lever, and that gives you your gear selection. So that's what that is. So I figured out that's what that is. And while I'm down here, that's the water pump as well. In fact, that reminds me, I was going to take the water pump off, so that's another thing I'm going to do. I'm going to take the water pump off and have a look at it and make sure it's all kind of clean, and you know, maybe give it a clean out inside if it's grungy or anything like that. So that's that. And then the other thing is, this is the alternator. Now this looks okay to me, but what I'm going to do is I might let somebody else have a look at it and see what they think, or if any of you guys know whether that looks okay, because to me it looks a bit kind of like a bit brown, maybe a bit dirty, or whatever, I don't know. But I'm going to let somebody have a look at it for me, I think, and see what they think. And that there is the ignition sensor. I possibly might replace that because I don't think they're very much. I doubt if they're very much. They're probably like 5 or 10 quid. So while I've got the whole thing in bits, I might just replace that. I've also got gaskets. All the gaskets came in the post. I think it was yesterday or the day before, I can't remember. So I've got a new gasket for all of these, which obviously I'll need because these gaskets are pretty much shredded when I took them off, because the cases are pretty well stuck, so I had to kind of pry them a bit with a screwdriver carefully so as not to damage the alloy, but obviously it has damaged the gaskets a bit, and you're not supposed to reuse gaskets anyway, so it's going to get all new gaskets on all of those, probably a new ignition sensor, possibly a new alternator, I don't know, we'll see. Certainly a new sprocket. I've got my chain and sprockets from the DPD delivery depot this morning. I went in on the bike and picked them up, so I've got new chain and sprockets. It's going to get, like I say, a new APE cam chain tensioner. It's going to get new spark plugs, new oil filter. I've got the new spark plugs and the oil filter. I think I showed those in an earlier video actually. So the next job really is just to paint it. I've been cleaning it up a bit as well, as you can see. I've kind of scrubbed it up a bit, kind of all over the engine. This front bit here around the exhaust ports and that's still pretty dirty. That needs a bit of a scrub up. So there's loads of work to do, but I'm quite pleased with it. I think it looks pretty good now that I've had a look inside it. The other thing is I've also got the carburetors. The carburetors were delivered earlier on today. This is them. They're not Honda carburetors, they're actually Kawasaki carburetors. They're actually for a 400cc Kawasaki. I think they're like a ZXR 400 or something. So they're kind of too small for the blade, theoretically. But, and again, if anyone knows better than this, feel free to put something in the comments. Smaller carburetors are supposed to give you better mid-range, or so I've been told. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean these up, strip them, clean them, service them, and then I've checked that they actually kind of fit. And obviously, as you can see, I don't know how well you can see in the video, but they basically kind of line up more or less. I mean, near enough that I can kind of get the rubbers on to hold them in place. They're a kind of smaller bore, as you can see. The Fireblade ports are like about 35mm, and these are about 30mm. But that's kind of the whole point, because if you put a smaller bore carburetor, it gives you a better mid-range. It gives you less top end, but it gives you more mid-range, and mid-range is what I want. So that's kind of that. Again, the carburetors appear to work. They're not kind of seized up or anything. If you press the throttle thing here, you can see the throttle butterflies open. That spring's quite strong as well. That's good. Seems quite decent. Throttle goes down through there, I believe. That bit there, that's the idle adjustment, which again I can just I'll maybe have to drill a couple of holes in the chassis or something and screw that on. That's the mains. They don't seem to spring back really quick. If you push them up, they're a bit slow to go back, so I don't know if that's a fault. I'm not sure if that's a fault. To be honest, I've not really fucked about with carbs much in the past, but what I'm going to do is I'll strip them down and clean them up. And I think I'll get a friend to have a look at them and just make sure they're just as they should be, that there's nothing kind of obviously wrong with them. Somebody that knows a little bit more about carbs than I do, I'll probably replace these rubber hoses as well, get some new fuel lines and put them on, because I don't think I really want to reuse the old fuel lines, So that's the carbs, that's the engine. So what else have I been doing? Oh yeah, the chassis and the swing arm. That's the chassis. Since I painted it, see, that's matte black. Looks pretty nice, eh? Quite pleased with that. I had to do the inside with gloss because I didn't have enough matte paint, so what I've done is I've just used some I think it's called Fortress or something, gloss black inside it. And then again the swing arm, that's been done mostly with matte and some gloss on the underneath. Basically anywhere that you can't really see it, I've done with gloss, because it doesn't really matter. I don't really care too much what it looks like underneath, as long as it's basically painted. You're not really going to notice whether it's gloss paint or matte paint on the inside, I think. So that's the chassis. Right, so that's pretty much it for now. So the next thing will be painting the engine. So I shall hopefully be painting the engine tomorrow, so I'll make another video and I'll show you what the engine looks like once it's been painted and once I've painted the engine cases and stuff. So thanks again for watching.